Hello and welcome to Filmi Ladies. Today we are bringing you an extremely filmy lady. We are doing our third episode in our Superstars of the Past series with Madhubala. And I mean, we all know Wahida Rehman is great and everybody loves her, but I feel like everybody really, really, really loves Madhubala, including us. And Pitu has a ton of things to say. And I am slightly less informed, much less informed, actually. So she might be doing most of the talking today, and that's excellent because I know she watched a bunch of stuff and she's ready to talk. I want to know two things to start with. One, when you think of Madhubala, what do you think of? And that could be films or like just general vibe. What's her vibe? And then second, I was reading a little bit about her and how she started producing films partly because she was frustrated with being typecast. And I want to know what I wasn't able to find out more about what that type was. So I'm interested in your thoughts on those things.
Okay. So Madhubala is definitely one of my favorites. I adore her so much. I mean, what's not to love? And when I think of Madhubala, I always think of, that moniker that she was given by the tabloids where they called her Venus of the Indian screen, because she was probably the most like gorgeous movie star we've ever had. I mean, she was just perfection. And she wasn't just beautiful in her pictures, but it was also like in her dances and her expressions. Just her entire vibe, I think, was just so lovely. And it's weird because despite being so incredibly beautiful, she was also in a weird way approachable, which is strange because sometimes when actresses are extremely beautiful, they're just kind of like aspirational, but they just kind of feel like they're completely out of your reach. Like I know people feel that way about Aishwarya Rai, but with Madhubala, she kind of had this like girl next door vibe. If the girl next door was insanely pretty, but then when I think of Madhubala, I also think about how tragic her life was, and she started as a child star, and it's like she reached her peak in her late 20s, and then I think by 34 she was gone. And she really did have a terrible life. And I have to say, the men in her life treated her abysmally. I mean, the woman deserved way more. So that does make me very sad. She really did deserve so much more and so much better. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with all of that. She is insanely beautiful. Those, that famous is it Time or Life magazine that had the spread on her, when you see those pictures recirculating around and you're just, I don't want to overdo comparisons, but I think when I first was understanding who she was, as I was learning about Hindi cinema, people are like, oh, she's the Marilyn Monroe of Bollywood. And I was like, I don't, there are obviously problems with that comparison, but in terms of like, sex appeal and beauty standard level, like yes, I get that. And she has there's like I can't come up with a better word, so I'm just going to use this, although I don't think it's perfect. There's kind of a softness to her, right? That she's got the big, huge, round eyes. There's something kind of
puppy dog,
curvy, round, sumptuous, voluptuous, like again, Venus kind of thing about her, which I think for someone raised in the US, like Marilyn Monroe is a reference for that. So there's just something so lush about her.
Oh, that's such a good word, Beth.
Yeah,
Lush.
sort of stunningly, engagingly beautiful, and obviously incredibly talented. I love everything I've seen. I love watching her on screen. To me, she has one of the things that interested me about this typecasting statement was that several of the films I've seen her in, she has sort of a childlike persona to the characters. And I don't know if it's the characters or if it's her or both. And again, that makes me think of Marilyn Monroe because of the high, breathy voice, right? Madhubala does have sort of a higher voice, speaking voice. I would say she sounds maybe younger than she really is. Or maybe, but again, maybe it's the films and maybe she puts that on, or maybe it's just me projecting. I don't know. But there's something sort of young, youthful, but to the sort of childlike, innocent kind of thing about her in the films I've seen. I've not seen all of her films by any means, but that's, I think, a really interesting thing about what I pick up from her anyway.
I think it was also her playfulness because she has done obviously she's done a lot of like the fun comedic numbers with Kishore Kumar and things like that where she's very like cute and pretty and adorable, but she's also done so-called seductive numbers. But when you see her in Aiye Meherban, which is such a seductive number sort of set in a speakeasy, she's not so much seductive as she is like playful and whimsical, and that to me is a little bit different from Marilyn Monroe or somewhere where she's kind of like, even when she's being sexy, she's still kind of like a little bit of a child woman, and there's something very like, I just always think of her as like a little bit of a forest sprite,
And
like not a human.
that child woman thing, if
Yeah,
that's worth interrogating, I think, because that can get really creepy very quickly.
it can.
And of course, very sadly, she did not, she was what, 36 when she died or whatever. So there wasn't a chance to see how that would transition as she aged, if she wanted to continue acting. But especially when you think about the bad treatment by men, and it starts to add up into a very upsetting picture.
Yeah. I've heard from a lot of like people who adore Madhubala in India. She's such a beloved star. Almost everyone in my family loves her too. And I remember when the government of India issued Madhubala stamps for one of her birth anniversaries, I asked my mom to go to the post office to pick some up for me, and I have them. And I feel like I think, just garners so much sympathy and so much compassion. Like people always love her, but they always like end their statement on her with a sigh. It's always like, oh, Madhubala, gone too soon. Because it's like her life really played out in public. And I think people feel worse for her than they feel like, say, for Nargis, because even though Nargis had cancer and stuff, you feel like Nargis kind of had a fuller life than Madhubala did. Certainly, it doesn't sound like Nargis was really mistreated by very many people, and she got married and had kids and stuff like that. Whereas with Madhubala, it just feels like all these unaccomplished aspirations and kind of like dreams that didn't come true. So there's just so much sort of like sadness associated with it as well, kind of like
Mhm.
a light that was extinguished too soon. But tell me about the movie that you watched.
Okay, so I watched Mr. and Mrs. 55.
Okay.
And I don't think that I had particularly heard much about this film. It was just one I could find with English subtitles that I hadn't already seen. And it's, kind of in the middle of her career. And I looked and said, oh, it's directed by Guru Dutt and stars him as well, but it's kind of a comedy. I was like, oh, Guru Dutt comedy. And I was really enjoying it until about this 2/3 the way through. The basic setup. Have you seen it?
I'm not.
So the basic setup is Madhubala is a bit of an orphan. She lives with her aunt, Lalita Pawar,
Oh
making
gosh, okay.
my films for these series. And she, Lalita Pawar, is an activist for divorce rights for women.
Oh, okay.
Opens with the divorce being legalized in India. And Madhubala is secretly kind of dating this tennis star. And I was also intrigued. This is the first time I think I've seen tennis in an Indian movie, which was interesting. I hadn't really thought about it. And I was like, oh, he doesn't really like her, but she's kind of like, oh, in love with him. And it turns out that in order to inherit her father's massive estate, she
Uh-huh.
has to get married within a month of the will being read, which is at her 20th birthday. And so
Okay.
she wants this guy to marry her. He's not interested. He's going to go off to play Wimbledon and other things like that. And she, in the meantime, has had a meet cute with Guru Dutt, who is an underemployed cartoonist. Right. And then coincidentally, he gets hired by Lalita Pawar to marry Madhubala for 1 month. He's not allowed to see her, or for 3 months or something like that. He's not allowed to spend any time with her. And they'll file for divorce when Lalita Pawar says they're ready. And he's going to get a check every month for being this this like temporary husband.
Right.
But of course, they've meanwhile kind of fallen for each other. But about 2/3 of the way through the film, they go to his brother's house out in the country somewhere. And his sister-in-law puts this total snow job on Madhubala about the benefits of being married. And it takes this absolute anti-woman, anti-feminist, regressive skid off the tracks. And the sister-in-law, is talking about, "Oh, well, no, I'm not tired. Why would I be tired doing chores for my family? That's so fulfilling to me. And I would never get tired of my children. What kind of mother needs a break from her children?" I'm like, absolutely every mother seems to need
Yeah.
that. And then Madhubala says, "Tell me, does your husband ever hit you?" And
Right.
sister-in-law says, she kind of pulls her palu down a little bit, and she says, "When you find a stone in your lentils, do you stop eating?"
What does that mean?
It means, yeah, he does hit me, but that doesn't mean I give up on him. And then
What?
she says, "But he loves me too, so it's okay." And you're just like, oh God. And the rest of
Oh
the film
no.
really does. And Madhubala has a big kind of screeching speech against Lalita Pawar's, pro-divorce stance. And it's all just gross. So
That does sound very gross.
their meet cute is cute. Like, he's hiding under the tennis stands and she's jumping down from them, trying not to be spotted by someone who would tattle on her for being there. It's very cute. Again, she's supposed to be 20. She is about 20 in this film, but she's very girlish. There's some cute songs. She has she manages to look sultry by just kind of like raising her arm and looking through it,
Right.
like, and he's endearing, but obviously comedy is not what he's known for. But I thought he was fine.
Okay.
But it's just gross by the end. And I was tweeting about this, and a bunch of people are like, "Oh yeah, that movie takes a real turn."
That's so disappointing because at the beginning, when you said Lalita Pawar is like a divorce rights person, I was like, well, that sounds awesome. And Lalita Pawar can bring it in those
Yeah.
scenes where,
And
like that's so good.
I thought she was great. And there's a bunch of women at the house trying, kind of listening to her talk, but then they're all gossiping about like skin treatment. So they're obviously setting her up to be the
There's the fall guy.
right, the bad modern woman.
Oh,
Super tiresome. It's also like divorce does actually benefit men as well. So like,
yeah.
you know, uh, I don't know.
It's like I know it's not the same, but it almost has a little bit of like a Taming of the Shrew
I feel
vibe,
that. Yeah, I thought
right?
exactly that.
Yeah, like let's put you in your place and get these horrible newfangled ideas out of you. Well, that's very disappointing. And I honestly would have expected a little bit better from Guru Dutt.
Yeah, I will say that before we leave this film, the sort of secondary plot is Johnny Walker, who is his Guru Dutt's friend. He has a romance with a woman in the office where he works, and this is Yasmin, who is not someone I've ever seen before. She didn't do a ton of films, but she is also very funny and stunningly beautiful, and they have a great song together. And we were talking yesterday in our episode about vamps, about acting through dancing. Here's someone who's acting through lip syncing, right? She's
Right.
really good. She apparently got put in a Hollywood movie that was filming in India and like went off and married a Hollywood person of some kind. So
Oh.
this was basically her last film, I think. But she was, if you don't know who Yasmin is, definitely look her up. Look up the songs from this film. She's delightful as well.
But also, I have to say that is a very unlikely friendship. Guru Dutt and Johnny Walker, really? It's like, okay, well, first of all, Guru Dutt doing comedy. I mean, there's a lot about this movie that is kind of like eyebrow raising to me, even though I haven't seen it. That's probably why I haven't seen it, because I'm like, I don't know if I want to see Guru Dutt and Madhubala paired together, and I
Watch,
don't know if I buy him as a.
watch like the first half or to 2/3, and when they go off into the country, then you'll be like, I'm out of here. I don't know anything else from this, but
I'll just nope out of there.
they're kind of cute because like he figures out who she is before she understands who he is, kind of thing. And I feel like this is very similar in plot to what I said about one of the films I watched for Nargis, but this is a plot that exists. But yeah, I mean, she is effortlessly charming, and even though she's being kind of dumb, you still root for her. And there's not a big dance number in this song, but there's like a number where she and her friends are romping around the swimming pool at the athletic club where the tennis star is. That's very cute.
Okay.
Nothing particularly noteworthy in a good way about this film, but it is a very pleasant kind of time pass thing. And which I say to remind myself that there are these great stars, but not everything they do is great.
Right.
Because how could it be? They're making so many films, like even in a fairly short career like Madhubala, there's a lot of films and not all of them are going to be winners. So
Oh, yes. And one of the movies I saw was decidedly not a winner.
you were, in our text thread, there were some comments. I want to know.
I was ranting to whoever was willing to listen and storing up all my outrage for our podcast.
I'm ready. Bring the outrage.
So I saw two movies. I have not seen them before. The Madhubala movies that I'm most familiar with are probably Mughal-e-Azam, which I do love her in it, and I do like that movie too. And I am super familiar with Chalti Ka Naam Gaadi because I've seen that numerous times, and I adore that film. Like, it is so good. So I intentionally wanted to see something different of hers, and I've been wanting to see Mahal for quite a while. Mahal has a lot of firsts associated with it. So it was released in 1949, and it is supposedly Indian cinema's first horror movie or noir movie. It also introduced Madhubala. It's her first movie as an adult, as a heroine, and it also launched Lata Mangeshkar's playback career. So both Madhubala and Lata Mangeshkar were kind of like struggling in the industry, trying to find their debut movie, and they both got a chance in this film. And it is written and directed by Kamal Amrohi. It's really good. So it has Ashok Kumar in it, and it's actually not a horror movie, as in you find out during the film that there's actually no ghost. Madhubala is just basically pretending to be a ghost. It's a ruse that she's come up with because she wants to acquire Ashok Kumar. I have to say this movie is really well done. The cinematography is amazing. The sets are gorgeous. It's black and white, and the photography is so beautiful. Just the light and shadows and all of that. Very atmospheric. If you like Hitchcock films, you will definitely like Mahal. Ashok Kumar is just adorable as always. He's just one of those actors that he always brings a smile to my face when I see him. And Madhubala is amazing in this movie. But I have to say, I was really taken aback by how good she was when I realized that during the shooting of this film, she was 15/16 years old. She was very young, but she turned in a phenomenal performance. And I was actually shocked because Nargis is widely considered probably the best actress. And when you were talking about in the Nargis episode, you were talking about Taqdeer, her first movie as a heroine. You said she comes across as pretty raw in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen Taqdeer, but Madhubala is not raw by any stretch of the imagination in this movie. She's very polished. She holds her own against Ashok Kumar, which is a huge feat considering that he was a big star.
According to her Wikipedia filmography, anyway, she's done a dozen films already by the time this film releases. Now, I don't know when it was shot, but she has done, of the ones I'm looking at, that's certainly the biggest name. And some of these
was she a child star though in those, or was she like?
Well, she's making films. Her first film was 1942. Then she's got another in 44, another 45, several in 46, 47, and 48. So
yeah,
she has done films.
Pretty amazing though.
Very young.
And for a 15-year-old or a 16-year-old, whatever her age was, to pull off like an actual woman, and this is a meaty role, Beth. So you'll find through the movie, I'm not spoiling anything for anyone. This movie's from 1949, you guys. There's this really good scene. So the reason she pretends to be a ghost and concocts this ploy, this story that she tells Ashok Kumar that we were lovers in our previous life and we couldn't be together. And so you died and were reincarnated, and I died, but I never got peace. And so I'm a ghost wandering the earth looking for you. She concocts this whole story. And towards the end of the movie, there's this like big court case because Ashok Kumar is found guilty of being responsible for his wife's suicide, not Madhubala, a different woman. At that point, she has this really good dialogue in the courthouse where she says, the only reason I did this is because I was in love with him and I'm a gardener's daughter. There is no way that I would ever be able to, have someone like him, date someone like him, marry someone like him because he's a wealthy landowning person and like he's an aristocrat, and I'm a gardener's daughter. Who would even look at me? And so I just thought that that was such a brilliant thing to say, because the reality is that it's probably acceptable for him to fall in love with a ghost as long as she is like elite and fancy and beautiful and upper class. But if she's a gardener's daughter and completely working class and from the wrong side of the tracks and an employee, then she's just not worth it. And that also reminded me a little bit of Paheli, right? Where it's like,
Yeah.
Rani would rather fall in love with a ghost who treats her right because she doesn't get love from her actual physical husband. But it's a really good scene because it exposes sort of like the elitism and snobbery and the inability to cross kind of classes in India. So I was impressed with how well she did in that scene. So I loved Mahal. I thought the songs in it were really good. Her performance really held up. So I had a really good time watching it, and I kept posting about it on my Instagram. And then I watched Phagun, and it was horrible. So Phagun came out almost 9 or 10 years after Mahal did, and at that point she was already an established star. Like she was a big name at that point. She'd managed to make it, and her co-star in Phagun is Bharat Bhushan, who is an actor that has the personality of a wet sock. Um,
He
he
has
does
made
not.
at least one appearance in this podcast already as a like.
He's so boring. He's dull as dishwater. He has no looks. He has no dialogue delivery. He can't act. He's just there. I mean, it's terrible. I don't understand how he got roles as a movie star. I mean, I almost prefer Rajendra Kumar to him, and that's saying something. When I say I prefer someone, when I say I prefer Rajendra Kumar to you, you're bad. But it's the weirdest, most horrible pairing of all time because it's a romantic movie. It's like an out and out romance. And again, it's the same thing. It's like he's like this wealthy landowner, this lives in a mansion, and she's like a gypsy of some sort. And she's a complete live wire. She's a total manic pixie dream girl. Her character, her role is so poorly written, but she does the best she can. She lights up the screen every time she's on it. She has a really good song, Ek Pardesi Mera Dil Le Gaya. She's so cute in it. um, and then Bharat Bhushan comes and she has to look at him longingly, and she has to be like, oh, you are the man for me, I love you. And he's just there like that. And I'm like, God, I mean, it's like she's emoting with a brick wall. It's so terrible. And she has all these like romantic songs with him, these duets, and he's basically like this robot person. And she's adorable and she's working so hard. And there's a scene in that movie where she's really upset with him, because why wouldn't she be? And she's shaking him, right? She's like, "Argh." And I was like, yes, this is how I feel. So I wanted to shake the writer, the director, the editor, the cinematographer, Bharat Bhushan. I wanted to shake everybody involved in the making of this film, except for Madhubala, because she did a good job. Also, I don't know what is up with Opi Nayyar. He gave the music for this movie, and usually he gives good soundtracks.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he had just recently visited Hawaii or what the deal was. But almost every song in this movie has like an ukulele playing, and there's like this toing. Like you just expect Israel Kamehameha to start singing a song. It's the weirdest thing because they're supposed to be gypsies. And I'm like, why am I getting Hawaii vibes right now? So it's very strange. The music choices are very odd. But yeah, it's a terrible movie. Please don't watch it.
How did you come to this? Was it just one you hadn't seen that you could find?
It was just one I hadn't seen. And the weird thing with Madhubala is that I know her tragic movies like Mughal Azam, of course, and her funny movies like Chalti Ka Naam Gaadi. But it's these in between movies that are neither of those genres, like an out and out romantic film like Phagun or a noir movie like Mahal, that I'm not as familiar with. So I kind of wanted to diversify what I know of her work. And I wish I'd picked a different romance because Phagun is not it.
I mean, according to some sources, and we know box office information is very hard to find reliably, but it was quite funny. I mean, it was a top grosser of the year. And you're always like, what else was going on in 1958 that this was like, why are people watching this?
Maybe they just fooled people because they were like, Madhubala is awesome, and which she is, and this song is awesome. And then they didn't realize they were going to see the wet sock that is Bharat Bhushan for like 3 hours. I forwarded this movie a lot.
It's got about 11 or 12 songs, it looks like. A lot of songs.
Yeah, and they're all forgettable except for this one. And I also discovered that Bharat Bhushan and Madhubala did 4 movies together, including this one. And I was like, why?
So who do you like her with most?
I adore her with Kishore Kumar. I actually really love her with the Ganguly brothers, with Kishore Kumar, with Ashok Kumar. I also really like her with Devanand because I think he had a lot of swagger and style, and he kind of like compliments her on screen. But those 3 would be my favorites. I oddly am not as big a fan of her with Dilip Kumar. Although I do agree that they had sizzling chemistry in Mughal Azam, and in real life they were a thing for a very long time, and they basically broke up and everything. But I don't like her with Dilip Kumar as much. I feel like he weighs her down because he's so like stern and serious all the time, and she's so like whimsical and forest fairy vibey. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, so I think I was making some faces while you were talking about Mahal, and it's not because I don't like the film, but Ashok Kumar is 22 years older than she is.
Oh, is he?
Ashok Kumar is also, to me, a person who looks older than, maybe even older than he really was. So I just see him with her and I'm like, oh, I just, ugh. And I feel that way about him in Paranita also, where he is, you are too old, sir, to play this role. You are not a college student. And Amrita always makes fun of me when I say, or she's like, my poor Ashok Kumar. I'm like, listen, he was old and he had plenty of power in the film industry. He did not have to choose these roles, but I love him as an actor. So it's not that I don't like him, but I just ugh. That said, like talent wise, I like them together. But yeah, I guess Kishore Kumar, I've seen her in a couple of films with Dilip Kumar. One of them is a Sangdil, which is basically Jane Eyre.
Okay.
And
I've not seen Sangdil.
For anyone who hasn't seen that, it's a perfectly enjoyable adaptation. It does make the surprising modification that Jane and Rochester were childhood friends. Because the Hindi films, of course, they were childhood friends. And when I first watched this, I was like, excuse me, what? But, okay. But it's fine. And then Tarana is another one I've seen them in. And I believe in that one, he slaps her. So I'm not as keen on that.
Right.
But yeah, I think I would probably choose them together, even though just because their on-screen chemistry is really, really great.
Yeah. I feel like Ashok Kumar is one of those people that always looked older than his age. Same category as Sanjeev Kumar, for instance. Like Sanjeev Kumar was never young. He was always old. He was always middle-aged and having a midlife crisis. And I think Ashok Kumar is somewhat like that too. Also because he did a lot of work with Kishore Kumar. And when you see them together, he clearly has that like older brother energy. Kishore Kumar has that complete like goofball, eccentric energy. So that kind of like shows off the contrast between them so much more. But I do have a soft spot for him. I think he's very cute. And whenever someone says that you are too old to be playing a college student, I always think of Amir Khan in Rang De Basanti.
Well, I mean, he's not the only actor too old to play a college student by any means.
But that's kind of like my bar. Like, this is bad, but is it as bad as Amir Khan in Rang De Basanti? Because that is like the baddest. Also, Amir Khan in Three Idiots. Also, Amir Khan in Fana. I mean, he's not a college student in Fana, but you get my drift. I guess I have a lot of issues with Amir Khan's movie choices.
So with Madhubala, okay, she's the third in our series that we're looking at, these stars from approximately the same era. What's her unique set of qualities that makes her different from the other two we've talked about, Nargis and Wahida Rehman?
I think the thing with her was that she was very pleasant. And I know that that's going to sound like a backhanded compliment, but it's not intended to be. I think one of the things that I agree with to some extent that producers and directors in Bollywood say, and also some stars say, is that people want some amount of escapism in their lives. And if you look at a lot of the black and white movies, especially because they were, there was like an element of social reform in those films. Many of those films are kind of heavy. They have very heavy themes in them, which I appreciate very much, like Guru Dutt's movies, Bima Roy's movies. They're talking about like social evils in society. And I appreciate that effort very much, but it also sometimes gets a little bit tiresome. And, Madhubala was always smiling and laughing, and she was always being charming when she wasn't being, like punished, like in Mughal Azam. But sometimes you just want a beautiful forest fairy to dance and prance along your screen and dazzle you with her beauty and her smiles, I know that's why I appreciate her so much, because I know she was a really good actress and she had a lot of mettle, but it's one of the reasons that I don't like Meena Kumari, because I don't need to watch a movie and then feel really miserable, or if you look at some of the films, the really hard-hitting films from that era, if I just want a comfort watch on a cold winter's night and I want to drink some tea and watch a fun movie, I know that Madhubala is going to give me what I need. So I think in some ways it was like a little bit of an escapist fare. Like, here's this pretty lady in her pretty dresses dancing and being adorable. And sometimes that's all you need and that's what you want. So what do you think?
I think she's more fun.
Yeah, she's more fun. Exactly.
And
She doesn't weigh you down.
yeah, I don't have enough. I have not seen enough of each of these people to really say that definitively, but that's my kind of gut feeling at this time.
Yeah.
And always is that the films? Is that her? But like, it seems to be consistent enough, at least in what and I think I've seen 10 of her films. Like, I feel like it's her, because even in Mughal Azam, which is not a fun movie, she is so vibrant and vivacious and all those kinds of words.
Effervescent.
It's not, yeah, and it's not that Wahida Rehman is not, for example, but it's a different kind, right? It's a different kind of liveliness.
I think they were all women. Nargis, Wahida Rahman, Meena Kumari, Nutan, they were all like quote unquote women. And then Madhubala was kind of like a child woman. And that has nothing to do with age. That's just a vibe. And I think that vibe was what made it fun.
Face also, she has a very youthful face, like big round eyes, right? She looks, that makes a person look younger than they really are. So and that's very interesting. And I'm sure there are good biographies of her out there. I would like to read one. So if listeners, if any of you have read one, please feel free to put it in the comments. But I meant to do a scholarly dive into this and just ran out of time to do it. But I'm sure there's a lot of good stuff written about her, especially because she did die so young and so
I wanted to ask you a question. I wanted to bring up a point where I know that as an Aishwarya Rai fan, I tend to defend her a lot, especially to people who think that she's a bad actress, because I don't think she's a bad actress. She's not a brilliant actress, but she's good. And she's done a lot of movies where she's really proved her mettle, like, Provoked, Raincoat, Chokher Bali, Iruvar, Guru, movies like that. So many movies that she's done where she was not just eye candy. And one thing is that, Madhubala she's always considered a star and not so much an actress. People consider Nargis an actress, or Meena Kumari is considered a great actress, or Nutan, but not so much Madhubala. And I do wonder to what extent it's because she was beautiful, or to what extent, right? Or to what extent it was because her biggest hits, apart from Mughal Azam, are her comedic capers with Kishore Kumar, right?
Yeah, I'm fairly willing to ascribe that mostly to the factors you say. And I was just, as you brought that up, I was thinking, in that time period, are there any men stars who are called a star, not an actor? I don't know, but nothing is coming to mind. So I think it's probably some sexist garbage.
Yeah, I think the biggest stars of that time were probably Dilip Kumar, Raj Kapoor, and Devanand, and they were all considered really good actors. And of those three, I personally really only consider Dilip Kumar to be consistently good. Raj Kapoor is very inconsistent.
Inaccurate.
Devanand is very inconsistent. He's better than Raj Kapoor is, but he's pretty inconsistent too. So I don't know. I actually feel like the acting caliber of a lot of those people were. I want to love Sunil Dutt. I really do. He's so adorable and darling, but his acting is not really up to par in a lot of the films he's done.
I don't find him a powerhouse, certainly, but I always think he's totally fine.
Yes, exactly. That's how I feel about him too. But he's in that category of people where, well, first of all, I don't even know if he was a star, but I don't think Sunil Dutt was ever considered like this gigantically talented
I don't get
actor.
that sense. No, no.
Yeah.
But people
So
love
maybe
that,
there's but
right?
yeah, he's
But it's
adorable.
persona more than anything else, I think.
Yeah. I think it was just the nobility. I mean, you look at Sunil Dutt and you just know he's a good guy. I don't know why you think that, but you just do. You're like, I like this bloke. He just seems lovely.
Are there, I mean, even maybe by now, there are some men who are in the film industry as performers who are very famous, who are called stars, not actors. I feel like we
Do you
could,
mean in modern times?
yeah. Like,
Hello, Salman Khan.
yeah, that was my action. That was my choice too.
I know one movie in which he has acted, and that is Khamoshi, the
Right.
Sanjay Leela Bhansali movie. He acted in Khamoshi, and then he forgot all about his acting. I mean,
No one,
100% it would be
and no
Salman
one
Khan.
demanded it of him for the most part,
No.
right? So, but yeah, I do think that that is a distinction that's made probably more for women than for men historically, and maybe now it's less so, but yeah, because, you know, pretty women can't be talented, so, it's sexist.
Yeah,
But
I
I think
think
most people, I don't feel I've ever heard anyone say Madhubala was not a good actor.
I don't think anyone ever said she was a bad actor. I think it's just that there tends to be in Indian cinema as well as in Hollywood, also in European cinema, there just tends to be this notion that if you can do serious and especially tragic roles, then you're good, and if you can't, then you're bad.
Yeah. The
Like
devaluing of comedy is a persistent thing, right? The
yeah,
undervaluing of comedy, like, always gets trotted out of the Oscars, for example. So yeah.
exactly. Like, what is that show? I think it's called Episodes, in which Kate Winslet is she's like smoking on set, and someone is like, "What are you working on?" And she's like, "I want to get an Oscar." And they were like, "What movie you gonna do?" And she was like, "I'll probably do like a Holocaust movie." Um, so it's kind of like, I think if she had done more serious movies, and I mean, bearing in mind she died so young, I think that if she had done some serious films exploring like women's issues and stuff, and sort of like tick that off and built up her resume a bit, I don't think, I think her name would have been taken with like the really big talented actresses of the day. But sadly, her life just was cut short.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other things you want to add about Madhubala?
I would like to watch more of her films, so I will be looking to see what people recommend. Obviously, I will not be watching Phagun, but
Please don't.
I've seen Mahal, I've seen Mughal Azam, I've seen Chalti Ka Naam Gadi, but I'll just take a look and see what else I can find. There are quite a few of her films have been lost, which is I'm
Oh,
sure that's true for other people of that era, but I hadn't noticed that designation as much in other people's filmographies as hers. And obviously because she died so relatively young, that I think everyone seems extra precious.
yeah.
I need to learn more about her, as with all of the people that we're talking about from this era. I've got some familiarity, but I need more. And I would love, I'm sure people talk about this now, like, what does she mean to us now? Like, are people inspired by her in terms of stylistically? Like, do they do things the way she did them? I don't know, but I would be interested to know more about that as well.
I know that she definitely is seen as a little bit of an inspiration for Madhuri Dixit. And I know that when Madhuri was kind of like a struggler and she was trying to get a foothold in the industry, the comparisons that were made between her and Madhubala, mostly on account of her smile, definitely helped her a lot. And I don't know if this was intentional, but I've often wondered if Madhuri chose to have short hair styled in waves in that Madhubala style as trying to, because that's very much a thing that people do. Like a lot of people say that Shah Rukh Khan tried to like take on a lot of Dilip Kumar's attributes to get a foothold in the industry. And at the time that Madhuri debuted, everybody had like long hair and stuff, and she was like the first person to have those like short wavy haircut that Madhubala did. And I do wonder if it was a conscious choice. This was also a very trivial fact, but I love the fact that, first of all, I'm not a fan of the fact that Muslim stars of that time were expected to change their names and make them Hindu. And so much props and power and love to Wahida Rahman for refusing and just being like, this is my name, deal with it. So I'm not a big fan of that. But having said that, whoever changed Madhubala's name to Madhubala, I think that was a master stroke, because it literally means honey maiden. Because Madhu is honey and Bala is young maiden, like unmarried young girl. And like, yes, that is the honey maiden. She is the forest fairy, forest sprite vibe that we all need. Can you imagine if there was like a Lord of the Rings version and Madhubala played Galadriel? Wouldn't that be lovely? She would be such a great Galadriel. I would gladly go to war for her.
I have never read or watched Lord of the Rings. I'm sorry.
Beth!
Fantasy and I don't tend to get along very well, so I just have never.
You like Bollywood movies. We
know.
did an episode on vamps, and you're telling me you don't like fantasy.
But like fake medieval and dragons and stuff.
You don't like dragons?
I don't dislike dragons, but like those are signifiers of things that I tend not to enjoy in terms of books and films and TV.
But they're awesome. Next, you're going to tell me you don't like dinosaurs.
Oh,
please tell me you love dinosaurs. Oh, you do. Okay, good.
they're I was about to say something really rude. This is not a nice comment. I was like, they're real. I like plenty of things that are not real, but yeah, that fantasy does not, as I understand that designation, does not tend to.
Hey, wait a second. You love the movie Ajuba.
I do. That's true.
Yes, you have just contradicted yourself.
Okay. I contain multitudes. I contradict myself.
What is the line from Alice in Wonderland? I believed countless unbelievable things before breakfast. That is you. You are Alice.
I mean, we're Bollywood fans. Of course, we love the unbelievable things. But
of course we do.
You're right. I do love Ajuba. Yeah.
Yeah. That is one of the first things I learned about you when we became friends. You know, I feel like I can win you over. I feel like eventually you'll come to the day when you will love dragons and mythical monsters. We'll get there. I'll work on it. I'm very persistent. I'm like a dragon evangelist. I'll wear you down, Beth. Where are you going to run? I know your phone number. I know where you live. Well, on that very threatening and dangerous note, we will end our Madhubala episode. Before we go, I just wanted to mention a really good comment that we got on YouTube regarding our Vamps episode, where Pina said that when we were talking about Vamps, we forgot Amrita Singh, who was the best Vamp ever in Aina. She was awesome. She was wicked. She was scheming. She was hot. She had all the good songs, and she schemed and plotted against her own biological sister. Good gracious. That is an amazing Vamp move, and I'm sorry that we forgot to mention it.
That is really, even I have seen that film, and she is so good in it. She's another person that I have not seen very many of her films. I really need to see more because I always enjoy her.
Yeah. Have you seen Two States? She was really good in that.
I have seen Two States. Let's not speak of it.
But her role as Arjun Kapoor's mom she was really good in it. She was so like manipulative and awful, but funny. Okay, well then on that note, Please like and subscribe to our channel, and please share. You can watch our YouTube videos. You can listen to us on Spotify. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts. We're everywhere. If you want to send us comments or you have suggestions, there's multiple ways to get in touch with us. The fastest way is to leave us a YouTube comment, because I do read them and I do respond. But thank you for watching Filmi Ladies, and we'll see you again. Bye.